All right, so I am gonna do the death and the life of Marsha P. Johnson, this reflection. So here we go. So just kind of a summary. This explores Marsha's life as a Black transgender activist, primarily in the 70s, 80s. And she was involved in a Stonewall uprising. I know that was one of the other documentaries that we could do. She also co-founded the Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, advocated for homeless transgender youth. That one really struck a chord with me, investigates her suspicious um, 1992 death. It was initially ruled as a suicide. Obviously, after watching the documentary, there are lots of questions that can definitely sway in one or more directions. So there's also just kind of more of summary. The activist Victoria Cruz reopens the case to more of this systemic injustice that occurred. Just kind of connecting these to the chapters from our textbook. So in chapter 9, it does really talk about legal and cultural exclusion of the LGBTQ I plus people. In chapter 10, it's that intersectionality and that systemic oppression that, this demographic is going through. Kind of that documentary connection, it really highlights the ongoing marginalization, sorry, words are hard today, especially for Black trans women. And it really shows the invisibility and the institutional neglect that this demographic goes through as well. Um, just kind of my personal reaction, didn't really dive, I didn't really know that this was such a big impact in this community. So I was personally just inspired by Marsha's courage and activism. She did so much for this community, and it also brought a lot of just frustration that there is so much continued violence that goes on with this community. Um, even to even to today, I think it's definitely something that brings frustration just because I do deal with youth who are starting to identify possibly in the LGBTQ plus. So yeah, that was kind of my emotional response and my professional takeaway. It obviously just reaffirmed why I am doing what I'm doing, why I am pursuing social work and wanting to really commit to advocating for kids and young adults in this community. It really is motivating me, as someone who can use their voice for the future in practice. So this is kind of my side-by-side comparison, the Christian worldview and the social work values. I broke it down and kind of put it in a chart. So just kind of obviously we can all read it. But Christian worldview, there's those traditional teachings, that heterosexuality, is the norm. A man marries a woman. There's emphasis on compassion and love, which I find it very interesting because those two, in the social work values, we really support the LGBTQ, plus rights and affirming diverse identities and making sure that they feel, like they're in their own skin and that they're comfortable, but also emphasizing the social justice and the client's self-determination. So, like, what are their goals? When we're talking to them, meeting with them. I also thought the last one, calls to love the sinner, not the sin, was very interesting compared to social work values, affirming clients without judgment of sexual orientation. So just kind of puts it in a little bit of a perspective. So. Um, Areas of alignment, so their shared values of dignity, compassion, justice. Both call for the service to marginalized people. Obviously, there's areas of conflict. So there's a lot of conservative beliefs that might not really align with LGBTQ plus identities. Obviously, there's tension between personal faith and professional ethics. So just kind of bridging the gap, there's self-awareness, cultural humility, education. Obviously, you can always go and educate yourself on certain topics and things like that. Professional boundaries, so making sure it is very client-centered, and setting aside obviously your personal bias. I think if you're in the social work um, realm and world, that is just something that you learn very quickly. My, personal bias reflection, just looking inward, I did grow up with, conservative Christian teachings around me, but I don't think I fell necessarily into that cat like that much of conservatism, if that makes sense. I was very open-minded. Obviously still working through, internalized beliefs, what's true, what's not, what do we believe, things like that. I'm always committed to continuing and learning to grow about um honestly anything, because in social work you deal with a lot of things on your table. So and just as, as a future social worker myself, I want to strive for that accountability and create that inclusiveness for clients, and that it's a safe, affirming space for anybody that comes into, um, my bubble, and making sure that they feel heard and protected, and validated when they leave. So, just kind of my final thoughts. I thought that her story was a very big call to justice. In social work, it must be centered around those marginalized voices, because if we don't have that, then we can't grow and expand and, continue to really educate ourselves. And really just aligning, personal growth with my professional integrity too. And I think this goes for not just me, but for everybody. So. And here's my scholarly sources, and that is my presentation. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.